All right, let me tell you something. Most people start buying a home by doom scrolling Zillow, and I've done it too. They find a house they love, and then they realize that they're actually not ready. So that scramble right there, that's where the stress comes from. And it's real. 71% of first-time buyers buying a home say it's more stressful than finding their first job and more stressful than planning a wedding. But what if it didn't have to be like that? Because the stress doesn't come from actually buying the house. It comes from not having a plan. So that's why I'm gonna show you the exact framework I've used to help over 500 families buy their first home in 90 days without the stress, even in crazy markets. So if you're serious about buying a home in the next 90 days, these are the exact 4 steps to get you into a home. And the first step is non-negotiable. And that's understanding what's your North Star and why are you actually wanting to buy a home? Because if you don't do this first, it's like getting in your car. You got your Apple CarPlay pulled up, you got your playlist set, you put the car in drive, and then you just start driving. And then your friend's like,
but wait, Nathan, where are we going?
And you say, I have no idea. And it doesn't make sense, right? You need to have a destination first, AKA your North Star. So if you want to get crystal clear on your North Star, I want you to answer these questions. Why are you looking to buy? Do you want to have the peace of mind that you get to move on your own terms? Meaning, the landlord can't just decide they want to sell and you have to uproot your whole family mid-school year. And it happens, by the way. And then, do you want to customize your home the way that you want to? And do you want to have pets or a yard for them? And right now your landlord doesn't allow pets. And do you also want to stop paying for your landlord's mortgage? If you answered yes to any of these questions, it's a very strong chance that you have a great North Star. If you're thinking to yourself, I just want to buy because, my family and my friends told me so. In my opinion, I'm just going to save you the headache. That is not a strong enough North Star to move on to the next step. I would double click into that and really understand why you're wanting to embark on this journey. And real quick, as we're talking about this 90-day game plan, you might be wondering, well, am I actually ready to buy a home? That's actually why I made the home buyer readiness roadmap. It takes less than a minute to figure out if you're ready. And guess what? If you're not ready, I give you customized videos from me to get you from a C to a B or a B to an A. It's completely free, takes less than a minute. It's my gift to you. Check it in the link down below and let's get back to it. Now that we built the right foundation, right? That's the North Star. We can now move on to step 2, where you need to have the approval phase on lockdown. So if you double click into the approval phase, there's 3 things that you really want to nail in this phase. So that way you can buy a home in 90 days and it feels easy. The first is get clear on your numbers. This is what you'll decide on. So what does this mean? I break it down into this. Payment. This is what you're going to decide on what is comfortable per month. And maybe it's $3,000 a month. Maybe it's $5,000. But that's where you want to sit down with you, your partner, whoever you're buying, with the help of your mortgage team to really figure that out. Next is cash. How much money do I have saved up for a down payment and closing costs? Right? That's probably important to know. Next is going to be credit. Is my credit score sitting at a great place? Is it a 600? Is it a 700? Is it 800 plus? And the key thing here is if you know your credit score and it's lower than what you expected, now you know what you can improve. But the first step is knowing. So once you know your numbers, you might be wondering, man, what areas should I be looking at? And don't worry, we'll cover that soon. The second and third part are going to be the paperwork and then the game plan. So the paperwork is what you'll provide. So we just figured out what you'll decide on. This is what you'll provide. This is where you'll talk to your mortgage advisor. They'll be able to walk you through what documents would be needed to get a very clear picture of your finances. So what does this mean? It means income docs, like how are you getting paid? Is it full-time, varying, or self-employed? That's going to match based on getting pay stubs, tax returns, and so on. And what about savings documents? Where do you have your money sitting? Is it like in a bank statement, a retirement account, like a 401k or IRA, or is it in stocks or mutual fund? Next is going to be credit and debt documents. What's your credit score at right now? And do you have a mortgage? Basically, your mortgage person will help get a soft credit report. They should be able to do that instead of a hard report. And if you have a mortgage, you'll supply mortgage statements. Now we're going to move on to the game plan. This is the most important part of step 1. This is where you'll put together the first 2 steps, and then we're going to figure out how you'll win. This step is so important because if you have a target, let's think about it, right? AKA your North Star, and you have a start point, But if you don't have a plan on how you're going to get there to your target, then having the target and the start point is kind of pointless, right? That's what the game plan figures out. So what does this mean? It means figuring out your must-haves and nice-haves. What are my must-haves? What are my nice-haves? That's gonna be like, hey, I really want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath because I work from home, or 4-bedroom because I'm gonna have guests over, or maybe a home office. My nice-to-haves might be a pool, or it'd be really good if I was close to the beach, stuff like that. Next is gonna be neighborhoods. What neighborhoods do I wanna live in that's aligned with my goals? And am I flexible with location? Third is gonna be loan program. What's the best loan program for me? Is it conventional, FHA, VA, jumbo, bank statements, like if you're self-employed, right? And then what's your offer strategy? What strategies will I use to get my offer accepted? Like, can I close faster? And that way I can compete with cash offers. All right, so step 1 should take you about 1 to 2 weeks in the 90-day process. And remember, if you have a strong plan, it's like having the best GPS system out there. It'll get you there faster, and more importantly, fewer wrong turns. Because if you know that saying, you gotta buy nice or you'll buy twice. I've made so many mistakes by taking shortcuts when I didn't have the right guide or GPS. And that's why I make this a strong point. You gotta have a strong plan. Okay, so now that we've built that strong plan, this is where you're actually gonna get some boots on the ground, is what I call it. And remember, we can plan all we want, but if we don't get the data, we can't create this feedback system, right? And skipping step 3 is pretty much like saying, hey, I've read all the books in the world about boxing, but I've never stepped foot in the ring. And that's a bad combo, right? And what does Mike Tyson say? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So we're gonna actually get some boots in the floor and not get punched in the face, literally, right? Because that would be painful, but we're gonna actually figure out how do we create some feedback loops. So now this is mainly gonna be testing out the plan by starting to look at neighborhoods and then homes. So that way we can get into the home within 90 days. Okay, so this is where a lot of people get this wrong. Because you're watching this video, you're not gonna make this mistake, okay? They look at homes before neighborhoods. This is fundamentally backwards. I want you to think about this. You can pretty much change everything about the home, but you can't change its location. And you know that saying. The 3 ways to win real estate: location, location, and location. So this is where I want you to tour neighborhoods first, right? So this is where you're gonna take about a week or so to get a really good feel of the neighborhoods. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What neighborhoods do you like that's within your game plan? Remember, the game plan's from step 2. Do these neighborhoods fit your commute goals? Like, do you want to commute very short and you may have to pay more for the house? Because usually the nicer houses are closer to your work. I know that's kind of weird how life works. Or are you willing to commute further, maybe an hour away? Do you prefer walkability? This is the key one. And these are opposite end of the spectrums, right? Walkability, or do you want to have better school districts? What do you value most? Because generally, walkability means better restaurants, bars, maybe some clubs for the younger people there. I'm too old for that. I know I look like I'm either 18 or 90 years old. So, but no bars, no clubs. And the reason why you're not going to find that at great school districts, because it's kind of weird if you have a bar and a club near a school, right? So they're usually not going to be together. So where are you in your life, phase? Do you value lifestyle right now, or are you preparing for, your future, for your kids' education, stuff like that? All right, so I want to show you a little pro tip here. If you have a very specific budget, this is what I'm going to recommend. I call it the price constrained search strategy. Okay, so all you're going to do, log on to your portal that you like to use, whether that's Redfin, Zillow, Compass, etc. And let's say you have a budget of $500,000. Obviously, this is in San Diego. That's, your place will be different, right? And I'm gonna apply my search. And the search, again, comes from the game plan. Is it 500 to 600,000? Because that might meet my comfort payment goals. Cool, plug that in. And what do we wanna do? 3 bedrooms. Let's say we're gonna do a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or 1.5 baths, somewhere, I don't know. Cool. Now I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. So what you can see here is, based on my home search of 500 to 600,000, you can actually see on my screen the most densely populated places are going to be in this north area. That's Temecula, Murrieta. So you can see up here in the north, that's Temecula, Murrieta. So that's going to be obviously a little further from San Diego, but you can see there's a lot of properties there. Then you're going to see some here in central San Diego, all that good stuff. Now, the reason why I like this strategy is because it's using inverse thinking. where do I not need to look? Which is basically going to be Encinitas, Solana Beach, Del Mar, La Jolla right over here, Rancho Santa Fe. Basically, there's probably nothing under $1 million here. So if I have a budget of 500 to 600,000, we're not going to be looking there. We can go to the beach and visit, which is free, and maybe go to the mall. Actually, not the mall, because we don't want to spend money. We're saving up for a house. But this is an idea of how you can use your price constraints to find the right neighborhoods faster. All right, so now I would recommend, after touring neighborhoods, we're going to be touring homes, okay? So this is the more intuitive one. So what I'm going to teach you is how not to burn yourself out when touring homes. And these are one of those lessons that I've learned, so I'm going to pass these on. So it's a simple two-step process, because simple scales, fancy fails, right? When you're touring homes, ask yourself this first question. Check the vibes. Do you like the layout and the condition of the home? If no, move on to the next house. If yes, great. We're going to move on to the next section, and then type in your iPhone on your notes or your phone, right? That way you remember 123 Main Street. I liked the neighborhood and I liked the house because of X, Y, and Z. Now we can move on to step 2, which is double check you like the house at night. Drive the home at night so that way you feel the neighborhood and the home in a different environment, because the home and neighborhood is going to feel different in the morning versus at night, or afternoon and night, right? So I always recommend just double check. That way, if it passes those 2 tests, you're probably good to move on to the next step, which is the offer phase, which, you guessed it, is make an offer, right? And this is where I say, like, if it doesn't pass those first 2 tests, then you can delete it out of your mind right away and, leave some room for some brain power, right? Now, when I'm talking about the offer, it doesn't mean that we just put an offer in, right? We need to combine the offer strategy with the game plan section that we talked about earlier. So what does that mean? Which is offer strategy. We're talking about speed, okay? Do you need to close fast to beat other offers out? Because sellers want to get paid faster than slower, right? And then protection. What contingencies do you want to help protect you while you do your due diligence? Those are usually going to be called contingencies. I call them real estate parachutes, protection parachutes, stuff like that, right? And those are usually going to be inspection, appraisal, and loan while you do your due diligence. Next is seller credits. Do you need seller credits for your closing costs, or are you good covering them? Next is escalation. Are we going to do an escalation clause? Meaning, hey, we're going to bid $5,000 above the highest verified offer. And that's, again, something your real estate agent can cover with you. Next is meso. All right, sounds fancy, but what are we going to do with meso? It means multiple equivalent simultaneous offers. Just a fancy word for putting multiple offers in just to see what the sellers value, and that way it can help you negotiate. So this is where your real estate agent should be helping you to figure out, what do the sellers prefer? Hey, we're going to put offer A, which is $500,000 for the house, or would you prefer, and close in 30 days, or offer B, we're going to offer you $490,000, but we're going to close in 14 days, and that's pretty much as fast as cash. Which do you prefer? All right, so remember we talked about the North Star, which is step 1. Then we went to the approve phase, which is step 2. And this is where we built the game plan, right? And this should be taking you about step 1 to 2, about 2 weeks or less. And then the offer phase, which is step 3, I would recommend this to be around 5 to maybe 7 weeks during your 90-day game plan. And this is where I would say the offer phase should take up the biggest chunk of your 90-day home buying game plan. So why is that? Because it's better to have more time in the market rather than trying to perfectly time the market. Meaning the more time you have boots on the floor, getting feedback, and Mike Tyson punching you in the face, not serious there, you'll increase your surface area of luck, right? You'll get more data, you'll get more feedback loop, and then you'll get more crystal clear on what you're actually looking for. All right, so the last step we have to cover is, because if you don't even do this right, then you did all this preparation for no reason. So this leads me to the keys phase. This is where you'll cover your due diligence, and it usually includes 2 different sides: the home items and then the loan items to get cleared. For the home items, we're talking about your earnest money deposit. You're going to send your deposit in so that way the sellers can take the property off the market. Guess what? While you do your due diligence, right? That's going to be your inspection, appraisal, loan, stuff like that. Next is going to be your inspection, right? For the home stuff. That's going to check the home's health and safety concerns. It's different from the appraisal. The appraisal we'll cover in a few moments. So if there's concerns on the homes, health, and safety, we can move on to the next step, which is negotiate repairs. This is where you're going to request items called out from the inspection report with the advice of the realtor. And again, if you don't feel safe moving forward, you use your contingencies or your protection parachutes to back out of the deal. Now that we got the home items figured out, let's move on to the loan items. All right, so if we double click into that, that's going to be the appraisal. So the lender will order the appraisal, and the appraisal is different from the inspection. It's going to verify the value of the home, not the home's health and safety, but the value of the home. Next is going to be underwriting. So the lender's underwriter, which is the person who checks all the guidelines, will triple check your loan package, income, credit, savings, and the house, making sure that it meets the loan guidelines. And then lastly, this is the magic words here, clear to close. When you hear that, you're gonna be like excited. This is where you're gonna work with your loan team to satisfy any underwriting conditions or basically document requests. And once that's done, you can start the loan closing process, which is the fun part. Now moving on to closing steps, this is where you're gonna do the final walkthrough, okay? That's where you're gonna make sure the property isn't all banged up and the sellers didn't party the day before and trash the whole property, right? And if there's any repairs done, that's where you're gonna double check to make sure everything's done. Next is preparing for moving. So you're gonna prepare for movers, cleaners, and the locksmith. That's a little pro tip there, where a lot of people don't schedule the locksmith until later on. You don't want your sellers to actually walk in, right? Again, you're gonna work with the guidance of your realtor to make sure you are closing on time, and then you can coordinate accordingly. Lastly, the big one, memories, okay? So you bought this home to hit your North Star, and we spent all this time on your North Star. This one isn't talked much, I feel like, on YouTube or just in real life. You make money to buy time, and I hope you use that to create memories. I know there's a Christmas out there or a special holiday with your family that you remember till this day. And I remember when I was younger, and I was waiting in line with my dad to get a Nintendo, GameCube. I did all these chores to finally save up. Like, it's crazy to think like 50, 100 bucks or whatever. And I remember watching Christmas movies, playing those video games, and that's something I remember to this day. And that's why you did all this work for this special moment. So I know it's not talked about a lot on YouTube because it doesn't get the clicks, but I promise you is if you make an intention to create more memories, you will live a great life. All right. So if we use this 90-day game plan that I just built out, you will have less stress if you follow these steps. It's almost like I reverse engineer this with all the 500 plus families that I helped. So it all starts with that North Star, like I mentioned, having a rock solid game plan. Now, if you follow all those steps that you can control, meaning you can control the controllables, and the process still feels stressful, then I'm gonna tell you, you have a who problem. So you might wanna cut that person from the team. Someone on your all-star team is not an all-star. And that's all good because it's all about learning and iterating on each iteration. So you're gonna cut that person, then improve the next time. Remember, progress always beats perfection. So that's it. If you enjoyed this video, give this video a like, subscribe, and comment. Maybe you wanna watch next. This also tells me that you like videos like this and I can share some more secret sauce, right? And also, YouTube is recommending this video right over here. Give it a click and I'll catch you on the next one.